Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Host, and welcome to this FCSI panel session on technology with a purpose and how to utilise purposeful technology in the kitchen, which is very kindly sponsored today by Alto-Shaam. So thank you for joining this session, which will last for approximately 40-45 minutes. My name is Michael Jones. I'm the editorial director of FCSI's Foodservice Consultant magazine. I'm based in London, England. On our panel today, I have the great pleasure of introducing two FCSI professional members. We have, at the end, Ken Schwartz, FCSI, who's from the US, and Danny Potter, who is from the UK as well. We have also as well Simon Parke-Davis of Alto-Shaam. Simon is based in Cyprus, so a truly international panel to discuss a subject that's gaining global traction and global interest, how to utilise purposeful technology in the kitchen. Gentlemen, before we begin, can we get just a few minutes to tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your area of expertise? Ken first, please.
No. I'm Ken Schwartz with SSA. As Michael mentioned, food service design firm, headquartered in the US, but we work on an international level, specializing in primarily hotels, casinos, restaurants, some stadium work, healthcare. But we're mostly known for designing very unique, one-of-a-kind operations.
Is that all?
We specialise typically in the UK in sports stadium and arena. Sports stadium and arena around the world. We don't do much in America, but the rest of the world we do.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dave. Simon.
Okay, I'm Simon Parke-Davis. So I'm the Vice President of Sales in EMEA. So categorically what we're doing is we're expanding the category portfolio around the European, Middle East and African markets to explain what categories of products we are supplying and how we deliver solutions to those people who are introducing thermal energy to food. So anyone who's got a challenge in an environment where they need to keep products warm, get them to that level and hold them, we are the solution provider and innovator.
Fantastic. That's exactly what we're doing today, talking about challenges and talking about solutions to those challenges. So today's panel session is going to address, I guess, 4 or 5 key areas. We're going to be looking at what kind of innovation and technological solutions are available that can make a purposeful difference to productivity, to kitchen efficiency, throughput, kitchen workflow. We're going to look at how operators can benefit from being and thinking tech forward, and the consultant's role in guiding that process. We're going to look at lifecycle management and how that's being factored into kitchen design and specification. And we're also going to look at where ventless innovation is heading and what the future looks like for ventless technology as well. So maybe to kick things off, could you first of all give us a quick overview of the types of technological solutions are already available to operators that can make a difference in terms of things like productivity, efficiency, throughput, kitchen workflow?
Okay, perfect. Nice way to start. So the first thing that we're finding, especially in Europe, is energy. It's a big topic for the customers. They need to be able to produce high level of throughput with high quality products, but actually reduce the cost of their energy bills. So with our technology, with the holding that we're using that's been around, we innovated this in 55. We're able to supply solutions that you can plug in a ventless environment, like you were saying before. So if you've got a problem with space, you need maximum output with a small footprint. We're delivering excellent solutions to the people with those requirements, so they can utilize areas of their premises, not necessarily the kitchen, but they're able to deliver high quality products consistently to their customers. So consistency is a big thing they're looking for from us, energy savings, and technology-wise, how we can save them time and give them security. So how they're able to map all of this out. I mean, time is a big thing now. We're spending a lot of time doing paperwork to ensure that we're sticking to the regulations and the guidelines of the regions that we're working in, and they're all different. But we have, with the cloud system and web-based systems, we're able to keep security within each region as well. So all the data is stored locally to the customer. And this allows them to operate and see what's happening with their equipment. They can train their staff how to utilize it better, so they can see where their peak times are and be able to say, right, this is when we need the maximum output, this is the energy that we put through, but this is the labor as well. And skilled labor is not coming through as readily as it was in the past. So other technology is also the fact that you have like a deluxe control, which would allow you to be able to simply push and get the right results consistently every single time. And this is something that the operators are really looking for, because they still have to serve the customer. You may have seen it a couple of years ago, you go into a restaurant, right, and they're saying, well, we're shut these days now because I don't have the staff available, and people still want to eat. So we try to find solutions for them to ensure that they're delivering the best food, they're saving on their energy bills, and their labour force are still able to deliver top quality products to their customers. Is that okay?
Okay. Let's get the consultant's view on that then, and how that type of technology, how it's helping your clients. Ken, can you give us a view then of how that kind of innovation that Simon's described there, how is that making a difference to those big challenges that the industry is facing at the moment in terms of like labour and energy efficiency?
Yeah, I think Simon is spot on, right? I think labor is becoming very expensive. Sometimes they don't even show up. And then the other piece is that how do you get quality and consistency every single time? We have a client who is a student that has 2 Michelin stars, and I did a presentation in June because it was this conversation about automation, which means very different things to a lot of people. But we were looking at a very small piece of equipment, touch of a button, you put the product in, and when the product comes out the other end, or it dings and you open the door, it's done. And somebody in the audience said, "You're never going to get a chef to use that." And I said, "Well, I beg to differ." And as I was explaining this issue or challenge that we had with our 2 Michelin star chef, we were doing a very big food hall for them, and they were down to one particular little item, pita bread. And he's like, "Ken, I want to make sure that my pita bread is consistent every single time, every piece of bread that we make." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to set you up in one of our reps' test kitchens. We're going to go over there, we're going to test a bunch of pieces of equipment. And at the end, you're probably going to find a solution you want and don't think it's what you think it's going to be. And I'm going to suggest something, and I don't want to offend you because you're highly skilled, award-winning, all of these things. And this is a very simple piece of equipment." This guy was really astute to realize he cannot be on this property. He's got 30 other restaurants around the country every single day, 24/7, making his own pita bread, and he's even got to rely on staff and equipment to be able to execute. So the person in the audience said, "Well, you're never going to get a chef to push the button. You're not going to get a creative person to forego their creativity and rely on technology." And I said, "Well, when you look at that little widget, again, even if it's equipment that Simon's company makes, I said, look at the controller on that piece of equipment." I said, that controller represents maybe 1,000 of you who have provided their input, their issues, their challenges, have all been engineered into that tiny little controller, and they've mastered whatever recipe is out there, or if you make this particular recipe, and they tested this piece of equipment, so now he knows if he's using a $15 an hour employee or a $45 an hour employee, it doesn't matter. That piece of pita, as small as it may be, which still represents his brand, is the same quality, consistency every single time.
Yeah, I love that idea that it's the sum of the parts of 1,000 people. It's the hive mind of the industry is helped create that. Danny, does that mirror the experience you have on you work on projects with very high throughput, stadium and things like that? Are you feeling that same kind of impact that innovation is able to make?
If you look at London, for example, we've got 10 football stadiums that are in the Premier League. There's only a small amount of staff that train big 20 stars that go between the stadium and the arena. How do you...
That's it. Displace the man.
Not in the big team. So, all the staff fluctuate between the stadiums. You take one stadium, for example, that wants to make every single product in-house. They don't have enough staff. The staff that want to mention, they rely on chefs that come from agencies that have never been into the building. So how do they do all the prep? How do they do all the process that goes into it? If one stadium in particular wants to make everything, they've got their own pastry kitchen. It's unusual in sports stadium in the UK. When you look at the time, what do they need in that stadium? Well, the pastry section, the biggest thing they do is assembling things, cutting, portioning. You can make 20 trays of brownie, but you can't cut it in time to serve it. So how do you go through it? So we spend a lot of time working through even just the process of how do you get to it? What is the best way to do it? These are equipment like this are £100,000, but 5 chefs can still
I'm going to live on our
10, yeah, strap it up. So 10 chefs is going to cost you more than that. You can't even get them through the door. We look at the equipment for the technology that we bring in. That technology can actually take away the space that's required for storing food. If, for example, you take a water jet to cut desserts, you can shape 15 different shapes you program it in. It's just about having a tray back as well. Patisserie places in London and the big ones. But what it doesn't then need is it doesn't get 1,000 sets of models on the shelves. We're strapped for space when it comes to it and how we make things work. So we need to look at technology and innovation, not just from a labour point of view, but how do we save space? No architect is going to give you a space in the world that you need. The first thing they'll squeeze is the back out of space, or the kitchen will make it work. They'll get through. Then you end up storing all of the equipment in the basement at the other end of the building that you can labour together. So it's a case of how do we go through this and get to a point using technology to optimise space, optimise labour, and get to a consistent product.
Great answer, Danny. Thank you. Ken, why does this kind of innovation matter to the challenges the industry is facing? The topic of the discussion here is technology with a purpose. Why does purposeful technology, or how can it help fill that gap that skilled labour is an issue in the industry at the moment? So why does having technology that has a fundamental purpose help?
I'll share with you, a conversation you and I had. Michael interviewed me, 2 or 3 years ago. And at the very end, the parting shot was, hey, Ken, what do you think the most efficient piece of equipment in the kitchen is? And I said, that's a great question. I have the answer. But I'm going to ask you what you think it is, right? Do you think it's a slicer, a processor, some widget that's making bulk, whatever it may be at one time? And I shared with him, and I said, it's really none of those things. I said, it's the ventilation system.
Yeah.
I said, because there was a study done, a huge study done, third party, independent of our industry, and the outcome of the study, maybe good for you to know too, basically said that for every 10 degrees Fahrenheit, the work environment is out of the employee's comfort zone. The productivity of the employee immediately drops by 30%. 30%. So that means for every 3 people, you almost need a 4 to pick up the drop in productivity. When I share this with clients, it's a huge aha moment. Like most people in our industry never thought about that. So, when you think about hiring labor that's more expensive or that doesn't show up, and now you got to hire a 4 for every 3 just to pick up the drop in productivity, there's a huge ripple effect among the financial statements at the end of the day and all of these other things. So to us, technology is a huge piece, and I think a lot of us have been through this as well. A lot of times, we look at things unrelated to hot holding, but warewashing. And there's some very inexpensive, very inefficient warewashing machines. And we have clients who buy those against our suggestion. And I went to such a hotel that we finished. They had a big kind of black tie thing, and I got there early because I wanted to walk around like every good consultant. You go in the back door, you see what's going on. And I saw these people in the ballroom, and they had stacks and stacks of racks of glassware, like a sea, and they're pulling out, and our friend from Micah is going to love this, they're pulling out every glass, 2 people, and hand drying every single glass. And I went up to them, they didn't know who I was, and I said, what are you doing? If you don't mind me asking, they're like, oh, we're drying off the glasses. And there had to be 3,000 or 4,000 glasses in all of these stacks. And I said, wow, that's ludicrous. I said, you have to do that every day? They said, every day. I said, how many hours do you spend? And they told me. And I went back, we were working on this client on another hotel, and I shot them an email, and I said, listen, I know on this project, you cut costs, you again, starting with the warewashing machines. I said, I've done the math for you. Here's what we specify. Here's what you bought. Here's what you're doing every day. If you just bought what we specified, you would have saved X number of dollars, which would not have only bought the machine that we specified, but you could have bought another 1.5 machines as a spare based on the labor that you're spending now every single day until you change the dish machine. So, when we think about efficiencies and automation in food service, it can be a small little oven or a holding piece to mass-produce food, dispensing to, like, warewashing. There's a lot of efficiencies out there, You just have to listen to what people are saying in the shows because the answers are up here.
They are. And I love that point you made about what a big difference something like good ventilation can make in the kitchen. I think this segues brilliantly into the keynote presentation that Danny is going to give after the session, which is about mental health and chefs and well-being in the kitchen. So, Danny, how can something like that, just having a better environment in the kitchen and working with technology that gives people a bit more of a meaningful role in the kitchen rather than doing the mundane tasks, actually help productivity, and how can, instigated by technology, how can it play a big role?
I think in reality we need to look at the kitchen. It's not a good idea. Because we never designed an office with a central heating, we've never heard this without executives. And move into that room at the end because it didn't have a window in it, but no one would have worked in it. We've done kitchens around it, restaurants, background spaces. So we really need to think that the kitchen is somebody's office. They're going to spend 12 hours a day. How can we make them comfortable? They're doing so much. How many offices are we in where we walk around constantly in the car? So it's that innovation, that technology. The ventilation is key. You wouldn't do it. You would not work in an office that's 42 degrees, cracked ventilation, no sun, no daylight, and we would never be an ISO. Google would never say to their staff, if you want a cigarettes in a vineyard, you wouldn't do it within a kitchen or within a catering environment, and we wonder why we can't retain staff.
Yeah.
The buildings and the restaurants that retain their staff, and when the staff are getting paid the same amount of money or there or thereabouts, they will pick the one that's got the most comfortable working environment.
Yeah.
They will take the one where the operator or the owner has invested the money into having the technology. Do they want to work with a gas oven that burns everything, or do they want to work with a combination oven that they can trust and employs will work? It's down to what can we do, what does technology do to improve things? You take Rationale, how many years ago you brought a Rationale into the kitchen, it was the odd thing that sat in the kitchen and you had an underground gas oven, they still use the gas oven. Now you walk into a kitchen and the gas oven is just used for storing pink from. It's because the times are changing, it's what people need to use. And it's how do we make sure that we keep up with the technology. But sometimes maybe the technology goes too far. Would you have an Amazon control your kitchen? I don't really think you would. There's a point where you're going too far with technology, but at the same time, there's a point where maybe every operator or every manufacturer has a different technology base and a different cloud system. So I've probably got one Alto-Shaam. Different manufacturers have different cloud systems, and then we're making more paperwork because we've got to tie each piece of software together so they can download it. And maybe there's a point for having an actual database that pulls everybody's information into one, so your temperature monitoring system. The point is to make it more efficient, and I think sometimes we make it less efficient by putting too much in.
Thanks, Danny. Simon, one piece of technology that you and I have spoken about in the past, which plays into that efficiency role, is remote oven management. How can something like that technology, an interesting breakthrough, how can it give that kind of efficiency that Danny was talking about there?
Well, I think that both Ken and Danny hit some excellent points. Those people who have actually worked in the kitchen understand the stress, and stress is what gives you the mental breakdown. We all get it every day, and how can we remove that stress from them? So, when you're looking at the kitchen management system, the first thing you want to do is remove stress. Now, stress comes from things like in a high-performing kitchen, you've got to have the consistency. You want the customer to be aware that every time they come, they're going to have the best product. So you can do recipe management. You can put the recipes to each of the units. If you have multiple outlets, you have consistency throughout there without having to travel to each one to train the staff exactly what to do. The recipe is in, you can put a picture of it. So you're removing a lot of the stress there. Also, downtime. If you work in a kitchen and one of the products in the kitchen goes down, it's a nightmare. You have to improvise on the spot. So the less downtime that the customers have, the less stress they're getting as well, and they can feel peace of mind. So what the kitchen management system allows them to do is connect it to their service partner. It's like a preventive maintenance scheme for free. So it will actually tell them a fan motor or a blower is about to go down or is going down. So an engineer can be on site in the morning before that chef even opens the door and says, I've got the parts to do, but I've come to fix your unit so it's ready for you to operate. These kind of things, like, we're desensitized by this because we're talking about it all the time. But to the chef, when they hear this, they're just thinking, wow, some.
Yeah.
And in all of my sites, I can sit in one place. I don't even have to be on site, and I can see what's happening. I can see where the stress is and where the peaks are in the flows and throughout every one of my sites, and I can start to train staff better. Maybe you get off that station onto that one, so I can utilise the capital I've actually got existing within the kitchen.
Ken, Simon talked there about the importance of training staff. Do you feel that the industry is picking up on this sort of technology that can actually help them? Education clearly plays a very important role here, but are people listening?
No. And I'm going to lean on Danny too to speak about it from the European side. But in the States, everything is tied to litigation, right? Everything is how do we avoid litigation? Not from a consultant's perspective, but from an operator's perspective, and certainly from a manufacturer's perspective. Again, you see these things on social media. Somebody buys an electric saw or a chainsaw, and there has to be a warning: never put your hand on the blade, right? I mean, those things are kind of obvious, but in the United States, everybody has made a lawsuit happy. So I think manufacturers have been somewhat reluctant to, I'll say, memorialize training into things like, like digital, video and stuff like that. But it is coming, and I think it's relevant. I think it's relevant for consultants, right? For us to have access to certain videos, so when we talk to a client about maybe, a waste management system, we can actually send them a link to a video so they can see it, or to, a manufacturer's oven so they can actually see the performance. But then to the flip side, I think that manufacturers can carry those videos to actually train reps, to train staff, whether it's staff that's on board, but they need, they move from dishwashing now to the hot side, it's new staff, but also videos for service staff will come out where they can actually log in and troubleshoot something via video. So I think the digital piece definitely has a place. Like everything in the food service industry has been very slow coming.
Picking up on videos, most of the UK caterers, they have online learning, they put videos on it, they do it. If you actually put it on the equipment, how to maintain it job specific, there's a step there already. We find that when you go into venues, we went to a venue with a pick, and the venues have the same dishwashers for 15 years, but no one's been in. No one actually says you need to put salt into the doser, and they realise why it's not doing. And the manufacturer hasn't been back. The person that installed it hasn't been back in because it's 15 years later, the equipment's still working. It wasn't a Mica. And but at the end of the day, it came back to doing more training, going back in, spending time with the staff. I mean, part of what we found as the tender is when they go out is that the manufacturers now have to reinvest into the training, even if it's just popping in once every 6 months to go through with the staff. Stuff change. We're not going to have the same dishwasher in most venues or pot wash as a PP for the next 20 years. So there's a transition, and people still need to train. We still need to bring them up to date. We need to look at machines from the point of what's going wrong with them. Some of it is literally just down to training and observation and customer care. Considering we are the hospitality industry about looking after people, maybe we need to step up a little bit and go back in and just look at how they're doing it.
Funny, as well as looking after people, looking after machines as well is really very important. Something like lifecycle management. Do you think what needs to change there to show, I guess, to show clients and operators how to properly look after machines and maintain them? Is that all rolled into the education piece as well to enhance that lifecycle management?
It's got to be. If you don't educate someone, you don't know how to look after it. You wouldn't buy a car and not take it for a service. You wouldn't look after it. It's sort of apply general life to the kitchen, and then we can see where we're going. Where do we miss out on looking after our own car, our outside doors, our windows, our computer? You can rely on your tech person to tell you how to look after it. So it's more about how can you invest into people, and it's the added service afterwards. And from a point of a manufacturer, as a consultant, surely you should be choosing the consultant that looks after the client, goes back in and lists.
Ja, dat weet ik, maar er is altijd een video van man van meer. Dat denk ik langs nog, en zie ik hem.
Ventless, Simon, so ventless cooking equipment, how can that offer new opportunities, or how is it offering new opportunities to operators?
First thing I want to do is just segue from what Danny was just saying, thinking about vendors. And that is, there are so many opportunities where we can train people that they didn't buy it. It wasn't a sale, as far as we're concerned. It was an investment. When you make an investment, you need a return, right? It's not just doing something that needs to create money for you. So what we allow them to do with our vendor systems is be able to increase the productivity and the throughput compared to what they're maybe currently using. Or if they're using us, we're happy to go and train them how to make the most of this investment. But if you've got a space, let's say a hotel, for example, on each floor you've got a cupboard, maybe holds duvets or something like that in it. That floor space there can be turned into revenue. Because as long as you've got power, you don't need a drainage or a ventilation system or anything like that. In goes some equipment, so you just plug it in. You can do room service without heating up the kitchen, your central kitchen in the middle of the night, leaving everything running. You just go in, you've got a preheat of about 3 minutes. You can do fresh a la carte food, or you've got holding underneath, so you're just finishing it off with some linings. I mean, how many of you want to get room service? It's the last thing we want to do, right? You're sitting in, oh God, I'm so hungry, I'm going to have to take room service. If that was as good as sitting in the restaurant, you would increase your revenue immediately. And you know what? I might stay in my role. I mean, last night, Kelly had to take dinner upstairs. You know, what a lucky guy. My wife would say, order in, be like, oh God, a curly club sandwich or something, you know. But the reality is, yeah, there are many opportunities how to utilize it. And exactly what you said earlier about you've got 1,000 chefs experience in that equipment, use it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add too. You know, again, when you think about whether it's room service in a hotel or second or third shift in a hospital, where hospitals are actually providing room service to their patients, guests, right? Healthcare, besides the treatment piece, is really starting to look a lot more like hospitality than healthcare. But again, it goes to how do I get skilled staff working overnight who doesn't want to work that shift, but still have the opportunity to still deliver great product, you know, that's still hot, that looks like it was just made to order. And there are tools out there that will produce at that level, and some limitations. And the other thing, you know, when you think about ventless, because we do use a lot of ventless, when sometimes we don't have any other choice, right? We're in a 60, 70 floor building and there's no way to vent out, or we're doing the retrofit at that Four Seasons Valley, who's 12-hour time zones away from us, because I had a conference call we got at midnight last night. And again, the solution ends up being ventless because there's absolutely no way to vent out of this space where we are. And so how do we slay that dragon and give them the tools that still allow them to produce the menu? The option is great, but again, you know, when we talk about ventilation and place environment, you got to be keen on the sense that that equipment is also providing heat gain into the space that the mechanical engineers need to consider when they're thinking about HVAC, air conditioning, and heating within that space as well. And electrical service. So it requires a much greater electrical service, and you got to make sure that the building has electrical capabilities to be able to power the equipment.
Danny, what's your view on ventless, and how's it helping, can you use the phrase slaying the dragon, how's it helping production throughput in some of the projects you're working on?
It allows the venues that are historically old, you look at that stadium that was built to serve being, people looking to it now, it's all about how do they increase their return on investment, how do they increase their revenue. So you're only going to drink so much beer, so you now delicious line, and so it's how can you do food. A lot of the venues, they're a small place, so it's a small throughput, and then it allows you also the ability to do pop-ups in restaurants. There's a big thing into live cooking, you can take the Evo grill that's behind you, you can put it into a restaurant, you can do a steak pop-up restaurant in the middle of the stadium, or in the middle of a conference centre like here. How can they do food when it's a different event? And that's what ventless gives us the ability to do, is to change an offer and to look at how we do things to see if we can actually add an additional revenue stream to what they're already doing with little investment. You've got to put a canopy, ductwork, you need 100, 200,000, you might have to move out of a building like that, so it doesn't matter where you are, you can add to it and you can add a product. How many would you really want to order something that's been held hot for an hour and a half? They wouldn't write it on a menu, hot held for 5 hours, and normally it's all fresh, right? So that's what ventless can do for us. We can move that into that area, and rather than have something that's held in hot boxes and transported, we can actually do a better quality product and sell it and actually generate better revenue for the client.
Thanks, Dan. Can operators responding to this? Are they aware of these options they have available to them now?
I don't think operators are aware of any of this. I think they rely on us, all of us, right, to kind of educate them, share the options, and give them the pros and cons of each, and help them decide what's really best for their operation. But again, I took a two Michelin star chef, and he was thinking, about some kind of old ancient oven to do his pita bread, and I'm like, it's just not practical in this venue to keep consistency, And he's like, well, what's out there? And he didn't have a clue because, like every business person or developer, right? Some of them even are so far removed from the food service operation, they just rely on us heavily for that knowledge.
Fantastic. A final question for me, and then if there's any questions from the audience, we'll take those as well. Ultimately, we've been focusing here on technology with a purpose. Where do you see this innovation evolving in the future? And do you feel that operators, like you said, kind of the penny dropping here, that operators, because of the role of consultants and manufacturers and educating them of what options are out there, do you feel this will make a fundamental difference to productivity, efficiency, throughput? And do you see that coming in the next couple of years? That kitchens will ultimately be more efficient because of that innovation?
I hope so. I will tell you, I grew up in this industry, and Thomas and I were talking about this earlier. The food service industry is slow to evolve. The food service equipment industry is slow to evolve. We hope things start moving quicker in the industry. The technology exists out there in numerous other industries. We're not asking manufacturers to necessarily reinvent the wheel, but to start to embrace the technology and understand, as Simon said, when we talk about videos, right? And there are some manufacturers in the U.S. who will stick a QR code on every piece of equipment. You can scan the QR code. It'll tell you when it was made, who the quality control person who signed off on it was. It'll go to a parts list. It'll connect you to the service agent. But I think you can be one step further. That QR code can have the training video. So when you got that new person at the warewash that hadn't been touched in 50 years, and this guy scans that and goes, oh, I should be deliming this thing or descaling it. Hey, where's our chemical to do that? And listen, like every manufacturer has challenges with labels and stickers. They wear off. Burn it into the stainless with your laser cutter. You could burn the QR code right into it. But I think even that side of the technology has great opportunity for our industry, as well as things like controllers, and again, like some levels of automation. And I don't necessarily mean, the robot that'll make your cappuccino for you, because automation is I press a button and I can cook it. When it's through cooking, it will hold for 4 or 5 hours, right? That's also automation, and I think we got to look at that at all levels.
Great, thank you. Danny, same question to you.
Is that all of the forums come together. Technology needs to carry on, but also the operators need to embrace it. I was in a kitchen where a chef had never used a cooking hold or an overnight roast on an oven, and he sat on the floor and watched it going through its process. It's doing this, it's doing that. He's sat there for an hour and a half because it's telling him all of the process. And a lot of it is that operators, people in general, which human behaviour is we're scared of change. So is the change, we need to embrace the change, we need to educate the change. And we as consultants, manufacturers need to work out how we convey that to the end user. Because telling somebody isn't really the way to do it. They need to see it, they need to believe it, they need to walk their process through it. And that's where it will evolve. It's when the operators catch up and they understand and they can experience it for themselves. They're not going to trust the salesman, they're not going to trust the manufacturer. In what part of our life do we trust everything we're ever told? We really don't. So it's that process, they need to go through it, and it's an educational piece for the equipment industry to move on. It's probably further ahead now than what's actually being used. If you look at a combination of it, it's probably got 200 sets in it. 300? How many get used reality? And then how can you actually manipulate them? You can press buttons to make Yorkshire puddings, which is actually the macaron setting, and it makes the best Yorkshire pudding, but nobody knows that. So it's just a random thing that's more of a education and getting used to the equipment that's there, and then driving the technology further and showing how you can generate better revenue and a better product and a better guest experience.
Very nice, man. Thank you. Simon, no questions?
Oh, thank you. Guys, thanks for leaving me up today. I mean, quite honestly, innovation is useless when it's complicated. Yeah. If it goes into a kitchen, chefs are not rocket scientists. They want to be able to use this technology and use it quickly and easily. They don't want to be standing in front and going through even 2 to 3 steps to make it happen. One step, I want everything to come out perfectly every time. Innovation, I mean, there are some companies out there like ourselves that haven't stopped innovating even in the last 3 years. That 5 product launches of COVID. So I think equipment needs to be going into multi-purpose. We're talking about floor space, right? So if you can have one footprint that's able to deliver you the same as 3 pieces of equipment that you would normally have stacked or side by side, and be able to get the same results. I mean, how many times do you go and see an oven in a kitchen on a continuous workflow, burning energy with one tray in it, and you're thinking 10% of the energy is now entering that food, the other 90 is leaving the bank. You know, you're just paying for things you don't need. So innovation has to help them. It's almost like idiot-proof, you know, like the Japanese traffic light system. You know, you're not going to get it wrong. The ATM beeps to remind you to take your credit card out because so many people walked away from it before that. Just something simple. These kind of innovations are what the customers want, we feel, and that's what we're able to offer and deliver. Another great thing about innovation is if you listen to your customer wholly, they'll just say, I want 50 more racks. Yeah, but that's not useful to them. It's completely the opposite. So we have to think kind of for them.
It's interpretation, interpreting. Yeah.
But the beauty also is you have to listen to the customer. Yeah. And in some companies, they're not able to react on what the customer is telling them. It's like, no, you will do it this way. I think they prefer it more when they're talking to a manufacturer and listening and saying, I'm going to make them changes just for you. And at the end of the day, we can tailor that and they have that flexibility for them. So they feel, I have a partner here, not someone selling me equipment. I have someone that's helping you through this journey and will always be there. Come back, retrain me. We have a relationship, and this is very important. We are people today.
Yeah, we are indeed. We have time for a few questions from the audience. If anyone has a question, can you raise your hand? Tell us where you're from. Anyone? Me?
Not me, me.
Okay.
Thank you. Nick Joey from Lyco. Going into the technology piece, and you're right, there's a ton of technology out there to use. It comes at a cost. And as a manufacturer, you've got to be aware, unfortunately, that not every client is going to be able to afford that cost. And that's where the kickback comes. Now, what we're trying to do at the moment with the operator is to say, look, okay, we understand the CapEx. What you really need to understand is the OpEx. And getting those clients to move from CapEx down to OpEx to allow that technology and the cost to come in and make the difference to their operation. I'm seeing that moving quite slowly. I don't know how you guys as consultants are seeing that. You're pushing forward to look at the OpEx rather than the CapEx?
Yeah, I mean, that was the example I gave with the warewashing, where the client's project manager was like, well, we're going to cut costs, even though all along the way we gave them budgets, schematic design, design development, and the food service equipment package was within budget. But I don't know if their bonuses are based on cutting overall construction costs. But it's, you're shooting yourself in the foot. It doesn't, well, Ken, this is my goal, and I'm like, okay. But when I shared that follow up with the client, the guy who not only paid for the development, but now is paying for this extra labor, it was a huge aha moment for them. So again, I think it's just our responsibility to help educate. And then listen, if they make a bad decision after that, then I still feel like, I've done my job.
Danny, anything to
Design. When we go for a process with design, we pick the right equipment, we feel is the right equipment, and put it out to tender as one. And then whoever's won that tender, they'll go to the main contractor. I can save you £1,000 an oven, there's 100 ovens. So the main contractor's not going to turn down £100,000 saving. Who our ovens really would. He does exactly the same job. But what we do is we ask them to quantify that into the CapEx, the OpEx, the sustainability, and the impact, and the lifestyle. Because if that oven pulls 10 kilowatts an hour more over the course of a year, it's cost you more in the first year. You've got a water softener on it, that's £500 a year. you've actually lost money. And then how much is that going to impact on your operation? So you've got to actually look at what the actual cost of everything is. So, right, you can have a RO on a glass washer. How much time do you spend polishing glasses? Well, you're going to spend 10 hours a week polishing glasses at £10 an hour. That's £100. The RO is going to cost you maybe £1,000. That's 10 weeks you pay for it. You've really got to look at it and then make that assessment. But it also comes down to who's looking at the saving, who's looking at the difference when you change it. If it's a builder, the builder's going to save the money because they make more money in general, because they'll take the advice that it's an oven, it's a dishwasher, it still does the same job. But in reality, we need to wait and it needs to be handed over. It's a weighted argument that, okay, it's £1,000, £2,000 cheaper, but actually it's going to cost you over the lifespan of the equipment, it's going to cost you an extra £5,000, £10,000. That's the impact that's going to get to it.
You know, when we did that math example on the warewashing equipment where the people were drying glasses every day, we didn't even account for, you know, for work, and you see another sea of 3,000-4,000 glasses are drying, you're like, wait, it's somebody else. The cost of rehiring, you know, retraining, you know, to have another glass dryer who ends up quitting another week later, and on and on and on. And so there's a huge ripple effect of that. But again, when you talk to the people who are actually spending the money, that this is actually costing every day for the rest of their life, it's a very different conversation.
Simon, anything to that?
I think they said it all. But yeah, this comes back to my point about relationships. For us as a manufacturer, we have to be there and prove what we're talking about and show them and educate them. And it really depends who we're talking to. If I'm talking to the guy that's got the budget, his job is to just save money. He doesn't care what stress the chef is going through. He will manage it, like we said earlier. But the reality is, if you can, I love your points about productivity, 10 degrees Fahrenheit, 30% drop, that's massive numbers that you've got to put an income person on. If you can say to them, you've got full productivity with this equipment, you've got an ROI based just on that, it would be 18 months, but as well, you've got the cleaning facilities, you've got the HACCP data, everything you need, all these kind of things is peace of mind. Isn't that worth more? I mean, we've got customers that have took equipment on because they're so scared of environmental health. You know, the fines that are coming into these guys are massive. They're like $1 million shutting down outlets. And if you can say to them, it won't happen with this equipment, and show them why, and you say, at the end of the day, your whole kitchen cost $1 million, right? I'm only asking for 30 grand of that. So it's in the overall scheme of things, it's quite a small piece, but because every equipment stands out the most on the BOQ, it's the first place to say, how can you save that? Like dishwashing. You know, and we have to battle that. And that's when we rely on you guys as well to stand firm sometimes and say, I put it in there for a bloody reason, and that reason was for this. Go see it yourself, yes, it's the same as guy, whatever. But go make improvements to it. You want in my service, my experience and my time, that's what.
But hotel groups are bought by the work in Dubai. So hotel groups have kind of big sustainable targets for food waste and energy waste, water consumption. What we're talking about here can contribute to that, the savings of all of that stuff, but in your answer. So is it something that with those discussions, are they part of what you have with the operators that you deal with when you're talking to your clients? Or when it gets down to the kind of individual operator level, does that kind of global goal disappear or get engineered out?
I mean, from my experience, this is a really important point. And as a manufacturer, we have to be connected to those people that can support the whole cycle. So if me as a hot equipment manufacturer, an innovator, I want to be talking to the guys doing waste management and saying, what can we do to help you? I mean, the beauty thing is with our management system, we can open the API, we can let anyone connect to it, so then it becomes a full schematic for them. So they can sit there and say, we can see exactly where we can save plate waste, shavings, cook times, how to train our staff again to save more money. We do it collectively because there's a win-win for the customer, for us, and for you guys. Because at the end of the day, when you do a drawing for a client, you want to satisfy everything so they come back, right? You don't walk away from it like some manufacturers and to say, right, that's one, where's the next one? You have to prove yourself every time, and they're proving it even when you left it 10 years ago. They'll still blame you for everything that goes wrong. So we always care about that. The embedded carbon footprint, for example, something like this, people want that as part of their own corporate social responsibility. So we talk to the people who have the regulations and standards on this, and we are totally open with all of our figures. So we say, we want to learn as well. Yeah, where are we going wrong? How can we improve it as well, just for the customer, for them, but for us and the environment and the children, you know, for the next generation. We want to make sure that we are making that journey with you, and it has to start somewhere. And it already has in my book.
I agree. We need to wrap things up there, I'm afraid, otherwise I'll be getting a hard stare from Melanie. I'd like to really thank our panel, Danny Kotek, Henry Schwartz, Simon Parke-Davis, for their time, for their fantastic insight, for their opinions. Thank you all for attending today. Enjoy the rest of the show. Stay for Danny's keynote as well. Thank you.